The following is a project of our nonprofit newsroom. Support Midcoast Morning and local community-centered journalism today by signing up to be a monthly sustaining donor at chly.ca/donate. It doesn't take much money to support local news.
Hello and welcome to Midcoast Morning. I'm Joe Pugh. This week, Kevin Hills took action on behalf of veterans buried in Nanaimo's Bowen Cemetery. When Hills was taking a military history course, he did a term paper on the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. Formed in 1917 and working on behalf of the governments of Australia, Canada, India, New Zealand, South Africa, and the United Kingdom, the Commission commemorates the 1.7 million men and women from the Commonwealth who lost their lives in the two world wars. Hills learned that there were 26 Commonwealth war graves in Nanaimo. He also learned that back in the 1960s, there was a movement to make headstones in city cemeteries flat because it made for easier maintenance. That change included laying down many existing headstones that had been upright, including the war graves, which didn't sit right with Hills. This week, he appeared at a Nanaimo City Council meeting, and his efforts led to a change to the city's cemetery bylaw that allows for the re-erection of Commonwealth war grave markers as they originally were in Nanaimo's Bowen Cemetery. I spoke with Hills and with Catherine Patterson, Regional Manager for Canada and the Americas for the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. And Kevin, you took a military history course. You learned that there were 26 war graves in Nanaimo, 23 in the Bowen Cemetery. What did you discover next? What prompted you to take some kind of action on this?
It was just my own personal interest to go and find them, research them, pay my respects. And I found that all of their headstones were laying flat, and that seemed non-standard to anyone I spoke to in the Legion, in the Air Force Association, any other cemeteries or military cemeteries that I had been to, any memorials. I've been to the cemeteries in Europe as well. And I was shocked and surprised by that, but realized that nothing was going to change if I didn't sort of take it on myself. So I did my research with the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, with the city, with the Nanaimo Archives, and was able to kind of piece together the story about how we had gotten to that point and then what to do to move forward.
And so what is going to happen next? So you were at a city council meeting this Monday. Can you tell me what happened there, what you take away from that?
It was a while in the works, but it was really educating council about how those headstones had been laid flat in the 1960s with a major cemetery renovation, and that they had the keys then to unlock. There's a cemetery bylaw in place from that renovation that laid all the headstones that have writing on just one side. They were all laid flat, including these war grave these war grave headstones. So when you drive by on Bowen Road, there's still headstones standing, but those ones have writing on like two or more sides, so they were grandfathered in. So the way I figured it out was that we were going to have to lobby the city to change their cemetery bylaw to allow an exception for these Commonwealth war graves to have their headstones reinstalled upright. And then step two is to carry on with the Commonwealth War Graves Commission and ask them to build it into their work plan, as part of their ongoing perpetual maintenance and upkeep to stand these headstones up again in the future.
Yeah, Catherine, can you tell me about your role in all of this? So fair to say that right now the place where we're at is the city of Nanaimo has basically just granted permission for these to be turned back upright. What happens now? Where do you come in?
Right. So this is, great news to hear. And so we'll take it on board for our operations. So in our day-to-day, we work with cemetery authorities, really across Canada and abide by their bylaws. And in different examples, there are certain cemeteries where, for example, all of the markers have to be flat in bronze, or we're sort of a partner with the cemetery as if, a family with a loved one who died recently. So we sort of work with them and follow the same, guidelines and regulations. And so this is the first time, to my knowledge, that a bylaw has kind of gone the other way. Usually, markers are being set flat or different types of renovation. So this is something we'll take on board. And again, see what comes, as Kevin says, for operations in the future. And then again, working with local, protocol customs, and go from there.
And Kevin, what stood out to you, maybe learning about the stories of the people buried in the cemetery?
Like I say, I've grown up as a military dependent. I was a cadet myself, and I still help out with the local air cadets. And this time of year, Remembrance Day has a big meaning for me and my family. So seeing that these headstones had been laid flat in a renovation and that was just accepted as normal, I guess just didn't sit right. So the social contract that was made when these men died was that they would have an upright headstone forever to recognize their service and their sacrifice. So,
did you take a look into any of the individual stories behind the people buried?
Yeah, I've researched all of them, and it's an interesting collection. I don't have some of the names on hand, but there's one young fellow that was gassed at Vimy Ridge, and when he came home, he succumbed to his wounds, and under the conditions of the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, he qualified for a Commonwealth War Grave burial. So he was buried with full military honors. So technically, there's a young man that fought at Vimy Ridge and was a casualty of Vimy Ridge that's buried here. Another fellow is 1st Canadian Parachute Battalion. So he was one of the first paratroopers for Canada, and he parachuted into France on D-Day and later into Germany during the war. And he came back to Nanaimo. He was still on strength and had started logging again and had an accident logging. So a tree fell on him. So he died while still in service, and his service happened to be as a paratrooper. So he's buried here. There's a young cadet. He was a teacher in town, and he joined the Royal Flying Corps, and the Royal Flying Corps had just expanded their training system into the States. So they went to Texas for the nice weather, and they had a major flying operation there, and he died in a flying training accident. So his parents had him put on a train and brought back home, and he's buried in Nanaimo. So that's 3 out of the 23 stories so far.
Catherine, I'm wondering how, as the First and the Second World Wars are no longer a part of living memory soon for people, can you tell me how the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, what role does it have in keeping the memory of what went on and people's contributions and sacrifices alive? How does it do that?
Yes, no, that's a great question, and it's something really. It's a physical place where people can go, and it's a visible way to connect to the past. As Kevin was just telling those stories. A lot of the the commission records and operations really start at the point when these casualties have died. So to really kind of hear these stories and the connections that people are making to these individuals today. I mean, that to me is really, great to hear, that it's not just sort of a name on stone. It's just, they had, lives before their service. They had families who carried on, and all of those kind of connections that I think are really what, standing at a headstone or at a memorial, are really the things that, I connect to a lot when I'm visiting these graves.
Is there anything we haven't talked about thus far that you think it's important to share with people about this story?
Well, I would just say if anyone's inspired to start researching war dead throughout even throughout Vancouver Island there are I think over 400 war dead across the entire island, So as Kevin had mentioned, the Commonwealth War Graves website is sort of a portal into locating where those, graves are located and who's commemorated where. And then we also have a new portal sort of reaching out and asking members of the public to kind of contribute stories of their local, or it's perhaps a family member who's buried overseas or commemorated overseas. But it's a program we're running through our website as well, for Forevermore, where people can kind of engage and tell those stories. So if that's something anyone is interested in, I would very much encourage, you can upload, service information, photos, video, all of that kind of thing, to really kind of get the story across of the person that you're connected to or you've been researching.
As I attend memorial services at the Legion, there's a core of older Legionnaires and veterans, and there's a core of cadets and young people that come out. But there's sort of nobody in the middle that seems to get together and express this remembrance. And I think because of the scale of the casualties in World War I, World War II, and the reason the whole commission was formed, those reasons were important then, and I think they're still important now. And I'm glad they're able to keep on perpetuating this work, and hopefully it keeps on generating interest and remembrance in the community moving forward. Just on my own project, it's been about 3 years, and in the end, that's what I learned was how to do the process to approach City Hall, do something as big as changing a bylaw, and for me that was a really good experience, and the managers at the city of Nanaimo, I can't say enough about, for kind of guiding me through that process and leading to the success that we had last night.
Catherine Patterson is Regional Manager for Canada and the Americas for the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. Kevin Hills is a Nanaimo resident with an interest in military history.
Midcoast Morning is made possible by the Community Radio Fund of Canada and generous listeners like you. Support and grow our nonprofit newsroom project today at CHLY.ca/donate with a monthly or one-time donation. With your support, we can expand Midcoast Morning from 2 to 3 original programs per week to cover local news, current affairs, and arts and culture.
Nanaimo's cemeteries are in the spotlight on today's program. It's going to cost more to purchase a plot. That is, if you're able to get one of the few spaces left in Nanaimo's current burial grounds. In addition to the bylaw change we heard about on the first half of today's show, Council also passed an update to cemetery fees. It's a bit of an interim measure. As you'll hear in just a few moments, the city is looking at options on how to proceed, as estimates are there are only 2 years of capacity left in Nanaimo's cemeteries. On Tuesday morning, I paid a visit to one of those cemeteries to learn more.
My name's David Thompson. I'm the manager of roads and traffic at the City of Nanaimo, and I'm also the acting manager of cemeteries.
And we are here at one of Nanaimo's cemeteries. Can you tell me about this place where we're having this conversation?
Sure. We are at the Bowen Cemetery. We are sitting on a bench underneath a beautiful tree, gazing out over the some of the historic miners' cottages here. This cemetery has been in operation since 1877, so it's almost 150 years old.
And I understand that it is now full and that we've missed the boat on our chance to get in here.
Yes, all the plots in Bowen Cemetery are sold. We're looking at opportunities to continue to provide service, but the city also operates 2 other cemeteries, the Townsite or Chinese Cemetery on Townsite Road and the Wellington Cemetery.
So how exactly does it work to procure yourself a space in one of those cemeteries?
Well, the cemeteries are managed under license to the province, and we offer what's called a right of interment, which is essentially like buying a plot. and that plot belongs to your family. You can pass down the rights of interment to direct family members, and when it's time to bury a soul, then we do the interment. And there's fees for the rites of interment, and then there's also charges for the actual burial itself, whether it's a full body in a casket or whether it's cremated remains in an urn.
And is that plot, that right of interment I buy, is that forever? How long does that last?
Here it's forever. We're looking at other jurisdictions where it is not forever. Certainly, as a growing community with continuing demand and for these types of services, it's really important for us to be able to continue to offer those services. We're going through a review process right now, and our consultant is putting together plans to be able to do that. Right now, as things sit today, we've got about 2 years worth of capacity.
2 years worth of capacity, and most of that, or all of that, is at the townsite cemetery or the Chinese cemetery by another name?
For new plots, yes. There is still lots of room for additional interments here at Bowen Cemetery and at Wellington Cemetery, but all the plots have been sold.
Got it. So there might be people already who have plots for their family who they won't have to necessarily be separated, if that's how you want to think about it. But if you were looking to get a plot for your family and you don't have one already, it's too late there.
That's right. So the plots, depending on the type of interment, have got different capacities. A standard plot will accommodate 2 full burials, so 2 caskets, one on top of the other. But it could accommodate 8 ash interments in one level. So there's a variety of different configurations depending on the wishes of the family.
And one thing you'll notice if you were here looking around the cemetery, you would notice that there aren't a lot of the sort of stereotypical tombstones. Most of them are flat, kind of in the ground, and I understand that's a requirement now.
It is in our bylaw that headstones be laid flat. There was an initiative back in the 60s across Canada to lay down upright headstones. The reason being is for maintenance. It's much easier to mow the grass, to do all the landscaping, much more cost effective if the headstones are flat and flush with the ground. We have left some monuments standing of a historical nature or sculptures or whatever. We have provisions in the bylaw for headstones that have been laid flat if they've got an inscription on the other side to be re-erected. And we also now have provisions in the bylaw for Commonwealth War Graves Commission headstones to be re-erected as well. So
and that's new. That's this week. That happened at
Monday's
Monday's City Council meeting. Maybe what would you tell people about just the context there behind that piece?
So the Commonwealth War Graves Commission is an international joint venture of Commonwealth nations to memorialize and celebrate service members, men and women who lost their lives in the Great Wars, World War I and World War II. In the Bowen Cemetery, we have 23 of those. And there's others who know a lot more about it than I do and can speak to the history and the characters who are here. But that's been an initiative that we've been in discussion with local veterans for the last year or so, and we're very happy that council approved that concept. And
the long and the short of it from your end is there are here in the cemetery 23 such graves, and now there's the ability to take the headstones and put them back upright.
That's correct.
Gotcha. And walking through, even though it's a fall day, you still see a lot of geese around here. And just walking the length of the cemetery on my way in where there are geese droppings. And I noticed on most of the flat headstones, they also crop up. How do you deal with that? What is the maintenance like?
Well, if I was a goose, this is a great place to hang out. It's like any park or sports field, lots of open grass. You can see predators coming from a long ways away. I see a cat lurking over in the corner who looks like he's getting pretty hungry. So it's part of nature. That's really the situation. And we do basic maintenance throughout the year. The care and maintenance of each individual headstone is the responsibility of the interments right holder, i.e. the family, or for the Commonwealth War Graves, the commission themselves. So if there is maintenance that needs to be done on the headstone specifically, then that's the work of the family or the...
What happens decades and decades and decades down the road? Are there... I would imagine there are situations where maybe someone doesn't really have any local family anymore and a grave is 125 years old or something.
There are facilities in our bylaw that allow the city to purchase back unused plots at the price that they were purchased at. So certainly it's rare. As these rights get handed down through generations, depending on where people want to spend their afterlife, but that facility is available to interment rights holders if it goes unused and they don't see an opportunity to use that plot.
But that's just if the plot hasn't been used itself. But
that's correct.
Gotcha. What about maybe the maintenance of headstones that are maybe historic, like some of the ones that are still standing up here? If you mentioned earlier that it's the responsibility of whoever owns the plot to take care of them, if that connection has kind of just been lost over the thread of decades.
Well, we've got a number of societies and agencies in Nanaimo, and every community's got a historical society or something similar that works to identify buildings or other features of the community that are of historical nature and are worth preserving or celebrating. Certainly, I would hope that if there's something like that here in the cemetery, that those agencies would approach City Council and have a discussion and open up that conversation.
And you mentioned earlier on in our conversation that you think there's about 2 years left of capacity, and that's not a long time. Can you tell me more about what is going to happen after that, or what the review underway is like?
So the review underway is to identify some options for council's consideration. We're looking to have that hopefully in front of council in the spring of next year. But statistically, the majority of BC residents are choosing to be cremated. And that takes up much less real estate than a full casket burial. So we certainly encourage people to think about that as an option. Save space. It's more cost effective. You can keep more of your family together if that's what you choose to do. But every family, every choice is different. So we're looking and we're aware of different approaches around the world, and in other cemeteries that have been able to make investments. We've operated a low cost option for Nanaimo residents for a long time, and some of the things that we've lost, the opportunities that we've lost, are more sophisticated, more current approaches to interment, such as things like ash gardens or columbariums and things of that nature.
So is the city looking at, for example, like opening a fourth cemetery, or is kind of everything on the table?
Pretty much everything is on the table. We aren't looking at acquiring more land. I don't think that's a realistic decision, but we do have land around the perimeters of the existing cemeteries that could be used for these types of things, where you've got an ash garden, as I said, or a columbarium, or green burials, or things of that nature.
And the other new development around cemeteries this week was, at the same time as maybe we went into the bylaws to allow for the developments with the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, was, as it was said last night at City Council, was sort of like, oh, we realize the fees for this haven't been updated in a while. Can you tell me, what are the fees involved in being interred?
So there's a variety of different fees depending on which route you go through, but essentially there's the purchase of the right of interment certificate. I don't have the number off the top of my head. And that gives you the right to the parcel. When it comes time to use that parcel to put a soul in the ground, then we have the interment costs. And those are, right now, those are intended to cover the cost of effort and equipment that it takes to do that work, to be around for the service and to make sure that the plot is restored once the interment is complete. Part of those fees go to a perpetual care fund, which contributes to the care and maintenance of the cemetery into the future. Obviously, once it's full and there's no more activity, we still need to look after the cemetery. So that's the purpose of that fund primarily. And then any other ancillary fees associated with the interment, if it's on a weekend, or if it's on after our normal working hours, or if there's late interment, things like that.
So that's pretty much it. 2 one-time fees, one when you buy the plot and one when you use the plot.
That's right.
Gotcha. And you're not in danger of needing to pay some kind of like annual maintenance subsidy or anything like that?
No, that's right. Just the 2 fees.
You mentioned before we started recording that you spend probably a few hours a week at the cemetery. How do you think about this place, spending that time?
This is a lovely space to come and think. There's a number of organizations that offer tours, the Historical Society. We've got some information on the city website about for people who want to explore the cemeteries on their own. There's a nice little walking tour, links all the cemeteries together, gives you a real sense of the history of where this community came from.
David Thompson is manager of roads and traffic and acting manager of cemeteries with the city of Nanaimo. The full plot internment costs at Nanaimo cemeteries are set to go up from $2,050 to just under $5,000 as of next year, with further increases up to around $7,700 in 2027. That's our show for the day. Thank you for joining me. I'm Joe Pugh, host and producer of Midcoast Morning. Jesse Woodward is our executive producer, and RB Frew is our technical advisor. You can sign up for CHLY's newsletter at chly.ca/subscribe for updates from our nonprofit newsroom and more. Our theme song is First One by local Nanaimo band Waste Management. If you have a story you'd like us to cover, email us at news@chly.ca. That's all for now. I'll talk to you on another Midcoast Morning.